I think we haven't seen an out in the open full model that just attacks when it's been created to do that. Large language models at the moment have been designed to talk to you. That's all it does. It just talks to you and gives you the information you ask for and holds conversation. When you apply that technology to purely attack, regardless, then that's quite terrifying. And yeah, I think we're all watching for that one.
Welcome back to AI Global Watch. I'm Natalie Taylor, Head of Client Services at Access Partnership and host of today's episode. In today's digital era, the landscape of cybersecurity is evolving more rapidly than ever before, with AI playing a pivotal role, both as a tool for defenders and a weapon for attackers. A recent report by Cybersecurity Ventures predicted that cybercrime could cost the world $10.5 trillion by next year, a figure that's expected to grow with the increasing sophistication of AI-enhanced cybersecurity threats. Against this backdrop, it's essential to understand not just the challenges we face, but also the innovative strategies being developed to combat them. We're excited to have James Bruckel, founder of Wuluf, a leader in digital security and privacy, joining us to discuss AI's impact on cybersecurity, the current threats, and the innovative strategies to safeguard against AI-driven cybersecurity challenges. So, without further ado, let's welcome James.
Thanks for having me.
I'd like to start by asking you if you wouldn't mind sharing a pivotal moment in your career that really highlighted the impact of AI on cybersecurity, either as a challenge or a solution.
Yeah, so I suppose I've got two. I was working for an organisation, and it was at the point, probably 6-7 years ago, when we started to concentrate on not just having good cyber products, but having a good ecosystem of products. And we're all realizing that they all need to work together. And actually, you can have best-in-class single product, but if it doesn't work with all of the rest of the products in communication, then it's got limited benefit. And that's when we started to introduce machine learning, and it was kind of going down the AI route, not as we know it now, but it was referred to as AI at the time. And the capability that brought, when you brought systems that could independently do things for you and could communicate with other systems, at that point we were transitioning past tuning systems to be good at what we need them to do to defend us from the cyber threat. But we became kind of the caretakers. We were tuning the system so it could protect us rather than us making the system protect us. So there's a bit of a transition between that. So at that point, I realized there was definitely something in that. Yeah. And the recent announcements of looking at how Microsoft products can reverse engineer something. Reverse engineering software is really, really hard, but it can just do it in minutes. And you don't really need to have a lot of skill in that. If they get that to the point where it works perfectly every time, that's incredible and going to revolutionize how we do incident investigation.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking back on your time from hacking computers as a kid to becoming a professional chief information security officer and your onward journey to founding Wuluf, how have you seen the role of AI evolve in the field of cyber specifically?
Yeah, so I think it's gone in cycles. So we've always talked about AI, and I can't remember a time in my life dealing with computers where we haven't driven for that. Not just for cyber side, but there's a natural human interest in can I make this computer behave like a human? I remember being a kid writing basic code that, when I type in hello into the old green screen command prompts, it would say hello back because I had told it to do that. And then memorizing a load of words that I can say, and I knew what it would say in response. And then you bring in your friends or your parents and say, look, my computer's alive. That progressed on through time. We've seen the Microsoft Clippy, if you remember that. Yep. That was an interesting attempt that we're all remembering, but many jokes. It goes on to when Siri was released. At that point, there was jokes on TV shows about I've fallen in love with my iPhone and all that kind of stuff. It was revolutionary. And recently, large language models is the next step. I've got kind of interesting views on whether we're actually at AI. I think AI is kind of like cloud. It both exists and doesn't exist at the moment. So in terms of, is this the closest we've ever got to something that replicates AI or represents AI? Yes. Do we experience AI as humans? Yes. But if you actually look at it in forensic terms, is it AI or is it just a logical outcome of a series of programs and mathematics and interactions with databases? So yeah, it depends on how nerdy and how forensically you look at it. It affects your thought on how you see it. But yeah, so I think it's always gone round in cycles. LLMs definitely are a cut above anything else we've done before. I think it will go further. I'm really excited to see where we're going to be in 5 years, because beyond talking to Siri, this is the biggest jump forward we've had.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think we all kind of expected it to come in slowly and for us to see it arrive, but actually it's arrived rapidly, and it's being built into everything. So yeah, that's super interesting.
Thank you. So could you discuss a recent AI-enhanced cybersecurity breach that stands out for you and what it reveals about the current threat landscapes?
This question I find interesting because it almost, I'm almost forced to ask a question back rather than answer the question. And that is, how would I know? How would I know that the attack was performed by an AI and not a person? There will be cases that we will eventually be able to trace this back, and I'm sure there are cases already out there. But what interests me at the moment is how many successful cyber attacks that have already occurred were due to AI, but we've got no idea.
No. Yeah.
So yeah, that's really interesting, and we're looking at it in the education sector, where we're trying to create tools that detect whether a student wrote that essay or whether it was written by AI for obvious reasons, for education reasons. But actually, are we doing the same in the cyber industry? Are we writing detection to see whether you're being attacked by an AI? And if you are being attacked by an AI, can we categorize which AI, which brand, which particular threat actor group is attacking you? I don't think we're there yet. So yeah, my question is, in most cases, we wouldn't know.
Really? So there wouldn't be sort of breadcrumbs or clues that hackers leave behind that might give you an idea that this is an AI rather than a human behind the hack, for example?
Oh yeah, and there definitely will be. And I think a lot of what CISOs and security teams are thinking about is, at the moment, we're probably seeing low-level interactions. So you can tap into ChatGPT's API and you can get it to write emails for you. Now, ChatGPT doesn't really know whether that's going to be for good reasons or bad reasons. Nope. If you just ask it to write you an email, it'll do it. And if you ask it to write in a friendly way that's interactive and encourages conversation, it's going to do that, which is great because there's a million good reasons why you would do that. I can also think of a few bad reasons why you would do that, because you want people to click on phishing links, and it takes spear phishing to the next level because you can be interacting with someone over several emails. You think you've got a good relationship, and then you send the malware, and an AI can fill in all that effort for you at the attackers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of, it doesn't cost them anything.
Help you target it and really tailor it at that individual.
Yeah, what we're more concerned about and what we're thinking about in future is where we create a malware-focused AI in itself that is adaptive. So you can just point it at a target, just give it email addresses, IP addresses, and say, go and attack it. And it will use all of the knowledge that's collected on the internet about how to hack something and then adapt what it's doing in order to attack the target. And I haven't seen anything like that. I'm sure it's out there in the world. Yeah. Someone will be on it. So I think that's what we're all kind of poised waiting to see.
In your view, what are the most effective strategies for combating AI-enhanced cybersecurity threats available today that you know of?
Yeah, okay. So I think I look at this from an end user perspective. And there's a different perspective. So if you're working in the supplier area, so if you work for Microsoft or Google or whoever, you're thinking about your AI you're putting into the product. But my perspective is from working for organization X. How do I best protect that organization? And I think it's down to good product selection and not buying the latest shiny thing. So one, definitely do the basics well. All of the basic stuff is very boring to say, but actually the basics work. If you're patched up to date, you've got your antivirus, so all of the standard things that you should have, that's going to protect you from the 80-90%. But thereafter, I think it's about being really careful in your technology stack or your cybersecurity stack of products and making sure they all work with each other, they're complementary, that you don't have a blind spot, and having a really good relationship with industry, because quite often you can get bombarded with sales stuff which can really turn you off to market engagement. But actually the suppliers, the industry engagement for an end user organization, suppliers aren't your enemy. In fact, they're the only people that are going to save you from this. They're the only people with the access to the level of expertise that you're going to need, and they're building this into their products.
Yeah. And
anyone that's trying to avoid engagement with AI at all, you're going to get left behind, and it's a bit of an arms race. And unless you have industry behind you, you're going to struggle.
From your perspective as someone who works at the intersection of technology, policy and cybersecurity, how critical do you think policy is in shaping our response to AI-related threats?
Yeah, so is it important you have good AI policy? 100%. And actually, you can't not have good policy and not expect bad things to happen. I think it's a chicken and egg scenario. The AI arms race is happening, and it is happening. You can't have a policy if we're not going to engage in AI, therefore we're fine, because it's built into everything we do. It's built into search engines, it's built into the apps, it's built into products you've already got. If you look at your products that you're currently using within your organization, I don't know an organization that isn't talking about introducing AI in some way.
Yeah.
So all of our technology is going to have AI in it. So if that's the case, if every company we're talking to, every company we use their products for is introducing AI, well, that tells you how important it is to have a policy on AI, because everything, the foundation you're going to be sat on is going to have AI built into it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Could you share an example of an innovative approach or technology that you or a peer has developed to counter AI-driven security threats? Is there anything you've come across?
I think probably the most I mentioned it earlier, but I think the most impressive thing I've seen so far, particularly within the cybersecurity sphere, is reverse engineering some software, some compiled software. You've got no idea what it does. You would normally have to pass that to someone who's highly skilled, got a digital forensics background, and has beyond. I've got a digital forensics master's, but I still couldn't sit down and reverse engineer something. That's a really specialist role. Finding those people is very hard. But actually, if you've got a product that anyone has access to, and that's kind of on Microsoft's roadmap, at least I suspect it's on a few, where you can just drop the file in and it just gives you a report within seconds, if not minutes, exactly what that file does and what it tried to do and how it tried to do it. That's such a game changer for security operations centers at the minimum.
So why is international collaboration crucial in combating AI-powered cybersecurity threats? And what role, therefore, do you think global policy alignment plays in this new landscape that we have emerging?
This is a big question.
Yeah, it's a huge question, but I think it's really pertinent for where we are today with all the various AI summits that have been happening over the past few months.
Yeah, what would you do if it was your train set on a global scale? So I think we need to look to other game-changing technologies, because I don't think anyone would argue at the moment the state of modern AI is game-changing, and we can see it's going to kind of terraform the digital landscape. The one thing that I would compare it to is encryption. Encryption has been there forever. That's the only thing that's kind of different. We've always had encryption. We had encryption before computers, but it is a game-changing technology. And actually, if you look into there's something called the Wassenger Agreement. And the Wassenger Agreement is where a group of countries have come together and they kind of declared in that what constitutes a weapon of mass destruction. And encryption is on that list. Encryption is actually classed as a weapon of mass destruction, and that's why you're not allowed to use above certain commercial grades of encryption in designated countries for that reason, because it's got an implication on the power of the state. And I think probably at some point we need to give some consideration, if it was my train set, then I think we need to give some consideration of what is the eventual power of AI, not the power today, but where is this going? Because encryption was definitely a huge contributing factor in defense. And we're not just talking about the Enigma machine, we're talking way back, Roman times and before. Encryption's always been that. And I think AI is now in that space. And we don't have agreement. We've seen where countries have tried to block the progression of AI, and all that happened was they blocked it, no one else did. So it has to be international collaboration to get to a point. And if we don't, then it will just free run.
It's so difficult though, isn't it? Because policy is usually behind the technology, right? The technology happens and then the policy comes later, or the regulation comes later. And with AI moving so quickly, like how do we regulate for that and create policy for that? Ahead of the AI game, it just feels like, that we're going to really struggle to keep up. Yeah. Especially if we're trying to do it at an international level, because that's even slower when you're trying to get countries to agree.
Yeah, and I can answer that. What I'd like is that we start to put effort into places where this is going to be really good. So healthcare, space exploration, all this exciting stuff that, makes, when you see that kind of collaboration on an international scale is really exciting. I think the trouble is when it stems into real world politics, and everyone wants the competitive advantage. Everyone can say they're not going to do it, but what they actually do is always different. So there's a degree of trust. So it's kind of over to those world leaders, but unless they take an interest and a real first-hand influence in this, then it will free run. I don't know what's better or worse, to be honest.
Are there any particular AI technologies or trends that you think are going to have the most significant impact on the future of cyber?
Well, I think we've seen the power of large language models. It's not there yet. You can mostly tell the raw output from a ChatGPT conversation. Once you get used to its format and nuances, you can tell a little bit. I don't think you're going to be able to tell soon. And there's probably models out there that I haven't tried that I wouldn't be able to tell. So when we've got computers that we can be in conversation with, and I wouldn't know it's a computer, we're right on the verge, if not there now. So that's definitely game changing. And I think we haven't seen an out in the open full model that just attacks when it's been created to do that. Large language models at the moment have been designed to talk to you. That's all it does. It just talks to you and gives you the information you ask for and holds conversation. When you apply that technology to purely attack, regardless, then that's quite terrifying. And I think we're all watching for that one.
So finally, I wanted to ask you about what personal advice you'd give to professionals who are navigating this landscape right now, particularly in cyber. Who are looking at the AI landscape as it's evolving. What would your advice be to them?
The first piece of advice would be don't ban it. Banning it, avoiding it, putting your head in the sand isn't going to work, in my view, personal view. I don't think that's going to be effective. I think you need to engage with it and get on the front foot. I think any cybersecurity professional has to go through continuous learning. If you're not, I mean, even if you're a year out of date, that's kind of light years out of date in the cybersphere. So you definitely need to invest in the learning in the AI space. And the other part is about data, because AI is the tool, but actually what determines whether something is good or bad is the
data that sits underneath it.
Yeah, the data processing, the data maturity behind it. So yeah, you can't just learn about AI. Well, you can, but there's very much the front end programming part of it. But the back end of it that's really, really important is data, and making data part of your art form is critical, as well as learning how to use the latest AI tools and algorithms.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's been a really interesting conversation. I really appreciate you talking to us today.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening and tuning in today. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with your community and subscribe to us on YouTube. You can also find us on LinkedIn and X.